Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most damaging things that can happen when you are in a relationship with PMDD, and that is shaming your partner. So I want to just really describe what that looks like, because I've seen this so often where your partner is really coming at you because you have PMDD, because they know that this is basically the cause of a lot of issues that you have in the relationship. And instead of being supportive, instead of looking for the tools as to what you could do to help your PMDD relationship, they start shaming you because you have PMDD, which is the disorder that you didn't even ask for. So when you find out that you have premenstrual dysphoric disorder, I know a lot of you are very shocked that this is the pattern that has been happening in your PMDD relationship. This is why you've been feeling crazy. This is why you've been having all of those cyclical fights every single month with your partner. This is why you've been feeling like you want to break up with your partner and maybe you're not compatible. Maybe you shouldn't be together. Maybe they should be with someone else. And so you're finally getting the answers of why you're having all of this dysfunction in your PMDD relationship. And you've dealt with years, months, days of your partner really shaming you because you haven't been able to put a name to the behavior that you've been exhibiting. And I want to talk to you today about what really shaming a person with PMDD looks like in a relationship, because I am not sure if the partner is aware of the damage that they are doing, or if it's a subconscious thing because they're not getting their needs met. And so they feel the need to call it out, because I've been in relationships before where, because they're not getting their needs met, there's a lot of bitterness and resentment towards PMDD. And so they kind of feel the need to attack PMDD without recognizing that you're attached to it. You're the one that has PMDD. So as they are attacking the disorder, they're also attacking you, which means that you're pulling further away from getting your partner those things that they want, that affection, that love, that validation, all of those things. And so let's just really start with talking about what shaming looks like in your PMDD relationship. And this is behaviors or communications that belittle, that are making your partner feel less than, that humiliate them or make them feel guilty for having PMDD. I remember so many times I've been in situations and relationships where I felt really guilty for bringing this disorder into the relationship. I really felt like if we didn't have PMDD in this relationship, we would have an amazing relationship, because in my follicular days and my good days, everything was going great. But because they knew that in 2 weeks' time, all of that follicular phase and those good days are going to go away, I was the common denominator. I was the reason that was causing a lot of this pain. And so it caused me to feel like I was the problem. And then I remember just thinking about it, crying about it one day. And I was just like, I didn't even ask for this. I am being punished for having this disorder, but I really didn't ask for it. So, and the reason why I felt that low, the reason why I felt like I was in a place where I was the problem, is because my partner at the time was shaming me for it. They were like, we don't have any problems in our relationship until you get into PMDD. So it occurred when my partner was dismissing my PMDD symptoms. When I said that I was in PMDD, they were like, are you really in PMDD, or are you just saying that as an excuse to treat me like crap? They were invalidating my own suffering. Like, I was consistently telling them, I'm suffering. I don't want to be here. I don't want to experience these symptoms. I'm sorry that I'm showing up in a way that's different from what you like, but I didn't ask for this. And they were basically pretty much making me feel like I was doing it on purpose. And then also it got to a point where they were criticizing, my emotional and mental and physical experiences that happened in PMDD. Because I wasn't able to show up the way that I was before, I was getting criticized for it. And I was getting criticized for having fatigue and not being able to stick to commitments that I had made before. And it led me to a place of feeling like my self-worth was really low. Like, the value of who I was so low because I had PMDD. I felt like, as great as I was in my follicular phase and my good days, when I was in PMDD, because I had this disorder, I was less valuable. And it led me to a place of really like being isolated, with feeling like maybe I just shouldn't open myself up to other people, because if once they recognize that I have PMDD, my value is going to completely go lower. Like, I'm automatically going to be seen as a burden. I'm automatically going to be seen as like I'm not common. I'm not as valuable as someone who doesn't have PMDD. And it led me to that place of loneliness. And one of the things that I've learned on my journey is the power of community. And when I was in this place of really feeling like so worthless because of the way that I was being shamed for having PMDD, I really felt like, oh, I would feel so much better if I was just alone. I would feel so much better if I didn't have this desire for friends, if I didn't have this desire for relationships. But then I recognized I do. And intrinsically, we all do. We all value from connection. We all value from relationships. So that cure that we're thinking that happens from just being alone, I always say single is not a cure for PMDD. And a lot of times it's so much easier to feel like we need to isolate ourselves in order to deal with the fact that we don't feel worthy, because we have this disorder where we can't really control it, where we go into the next month and we can't really guarantee that the things that you're complaining about, that I'm not going to do them again. I remember feeling like that, where it's like I'm apologizing for behaviors that I'm probably going to do next month. I'm probably going to go off on PMDD rage early on my journey because I didn't really have the tools. So it was like I'm in this situation where I'm trying to apologize to my partner for things that I've said and done, but I couldn't really guarantee that it wasn't going to happen again. And so you're in that place of feeling like you're the problem because you have PMDD. And so when your partner begins to make these hurtful comments, I want to let you know the root of that. The root of the hurtful comments doesn't mean that your partner is a bad person. I remember thinking that earlier in my journey. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're a horrible person because they said this to me, or they're a horrible person because they're pulled back from me. No, they're not getting their needs met and they're feeling like they're the problem. They're feeling like you're blaming having PMDD on them, which is something that you probably said. And so they're retaliating with these hurtful comments, and they're starting to have comparisons. Like, if you are in PMDD and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. Oh my gosh, I have so many of these things going on. I have so many symptoms. And they're like, look, I had a hard day too. I had a hard day too. Like, they start comparing their struggle to your struggle. And I've done this in relationships where it's like there's this competition about who is suffering the most. Or it could go into that realms of sarcasm, like, oh, let me guess, it's the PMDD monster again. Right? Or it's, oh, when you get into PMDD, they're using it as a weapon in arguments. Like, basically, I don't need to hear anything that you have to say because you're in PMDD. So nothing that you say while you're in PMDD is valid. So now you're feeling like you're stuck in this box, which for me is the harshest form of punishment, because I'm an Enneagram 7, I'm a free spirit. I need freedom. So when I feel like you're putting me in this box of, oh, because you're in PMDD, like now nothing that you say is valid. You're crazy. You don't really know what you're talking about. You can't really remember the things that you're even saying in PMDD. that's when I started having this bitterness and resentment, because it was like, wait a minute. I know what I want to say. I know what I want to articulate, but I'm not able to do it in the moment. And then the partner, instead of understanding that that's a symptom of PMDD, they almost blame you and shame you for it and make you feel like, why should I sit here and have a logical conversation with you when you can't even remember the argument points that you were going to bring up? And so you start getting into this place where you're compartmentalizing all of the things that you really feel, and you're just telling them surface level things. Like, you start lying about your PMDD symptoms because you don't want to seem like you're incapable of having a decent conversation, a decent interaction. But what I want to let you know is this is the way that, shaming can show up in your PMDD relationship. It is invalidating your PMDD symptoms, dismissing the severity of the PMDD symptoms, saying, oh my gosh, you're just being dramatic, or it's just PMDD. Everybody deals with this. And I remember having to defend myself and like forcing myself to explain to a partner that, no, I really wasn't PMDD, and it's really not PMS, because they're thinking they've been in relationships with other women that have had, PMS. And so I'm saying, oh my gosh, I have PMDD. And they're like, okay, so that's just an exaggerated version of the fluctuation of hormones that you deal with. Like, you're just giving yourself a cop out for treating me like crap, giving yourself a cop out for not managing your own emotions. And so the next way that it can show up in your PMDD relationship is you're blaming the person with PMDD, your partner, for having mood swings. So when you're in PMDD, you have a fluctuations of PMDD symptoms, which involve emotional highs and lows. That is an absolute must. And anything can trigger those highs and lows, including your partner. And so what shaming looks like is you're blaming your partner for the mood swings. You're accusing your partner of intentionally being difficult or using PMDD as an excuse. And there's certain phrases that really allude to that. You're in that place of shaming. Is you always use PMDD as a reason to be mean. Stop blaming your hormones for everything. These are comments that your partner can make when they're shaming you for having this disorder, and they're basically making you feel like you're intentionally trying to be this way, and it's not just because you're suffering in PMDD. So I know a lot of times when I was in PMDD, and I'm in it right now, I don't want to react a lot of the ways that I do, and I have to be very conscious and very aware of my default method is to be irritable. My default method is to take everything personal. My default method is to take a lot of the comments that my partner used to make as an attack. That was my default method. And I was in this place where I didn't want to be that way, but I absolutely knew that I was being that way. I absolutely knew that whenever I went into PMDD, that my partner couldn't really joke and laugh and have all these little comments with me, because I would intentionally think that they were saying it for a reason. And so the partner would, instead of like understanding that, they would be like, oh, look, here you go again. I guess I can't say anything because you're in PMDD. And it would get me to this place where I was really, feeling like I hate that I'm like this. It's almost like when you become self-aware, you can see that you're like this, but you can't necessarily do anything to stop it. And so the next way that you can be shamed in your PMDD relationship is your partner is criticizing your emotional reactions to any of the triggers that you bring to them. So it is mocking or belittling your partner's emotional response during PMDD episodes. Like it's common saying like, you're crazy when you're like this. Like, I can't deal with you when you're like this, or I can't take you seriously when you act this way. These are comments that have literally been told to me so many times from private clients, so many times that I've heard myself, where it's been like your partner is completely dismissing any emotional reactions that you may have to any situations that happen because you're in PMDD. And they're like, oh, you're in PMDD. Like, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with you when you're like this. Like, you're out of control. You're crazy. And so you get into that point where you start shutting down because you're feeling like every emotional reaction that you have with your partner, they're going to dismiss it. It's not going to be validated. And so the next way that your partner can shame you is they're withholding empathy. They're refusing to acknowledge or empathize with the fact that you're in PMDD. They're getting to that phase of saying, like, everybody's suffering. Like, why do you have to make me suffer because you're suffering? Or you need to just get over it, or you need to step it up, like suck it up. And I remember being in this place where even I was feeling like I'm experiencing PMDD and I'm feeling like, as my partner, there's other partners, like you should be able to suck it up. And that was one of the most damaging things, was really asking my partner to mask their emotional reactions to the triggers that they were having and saying, you just need to suck it up. You just need to deal with it because I'm in PMDD. And that's a symptom of blaming, because you're sitting there telling a partner that because you're suffering in PMDD symptoms, premenstrual dysphoric disorder symptoms, that they should be taking your verbal and sometimes physical abuse because you're displaying that to them. And that's not reality. The reality of the situation is you need to learn how to manage your emotions when you're experiencing PMDD, but you're actually telling the partner that they're wrong for having an emotional reaction to you going off on them. You're having an emotional reaction to verbal abuse, and they're responding to it and saying, you just need to suck it up. Like, I know other people that have dealt with it. And when we're talking about hormone health, when we're talking about PMDD, when we're talking about things that are like, that are taboo, that are not normally talked about, sometimes you can end up shaming your partner into feeling like they should be able to handle what comes after your partner being in PMDD. They should be able to handle the hormonal fluctuations. And there's something wrong with them, because when you're responding in PMDD, like they're not able to handle it, it really hurts their feelings. So you're essentially shaming them for having human emotion reactions to what you're bringing to them. When you have PMDD, this is it's like PMS on crack. Like, it is an enhanced emotion, like that your partner has to deal with. And so you can get to a point of saying, oh, other people can deal with this. What's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with you? You should be able to handle this verbal abuse, this sometimes physical abuse. And that's not reality. But you can make your partner feel, you can shame them into feeling like they're inadequate because they're not taking your verbal abuse when you go into this cyclical pattern every single month. They could be thinking about things that you've said and done to them last month. They could be thinking about how you hurt their feelings, how you went below the belt, how you haven't really even apologized, how you haven't acknowledged how much your comments made an impact on how they felt about themselves. Because partners of individuals who have PMDD get to this place of they're wanting to be there for you. They're wanting to support you, but you blame them and shame them so much that you've made them feel like maybe they're not a good enough person to be with someone who has PMDD. You've put them in that place. You put them in that box of shaming them. And so it's almost like we're getting into number 5, which is you're using PMDD as a weapon in arguments. As soon as you start arguing with your partner in PMDD, as soon as you start arguing with them about, things that they've said and done, you're bringing up things that they've said and done when they've been in PMDD in the past. You're bringing up unrelated arguments. Like, you start arguing about one thing, and then all of a sudden you start arguing about something completely different because you're discrediting their feelings. You're saying things like, are you sure this isn't your PMDD talking? Like, there's been a lot of times in past relationships where I've been really vulnerable with partners and said, hey, I've been experiencing PMDD symptoms, and I'm really sorry that the last time we were in an argument or a disagreement that I didn't really take that into effect. And then the next time I try to bring up a valid point, a valid, thing that I have to say in an argument, they're discrediting it, they're invalidating it and saying, are you sure you're not in PMDD? Or you're only upset because your period is coming. This is the way that you're blaming and shaming your partner for having premenstrual dysphoric disorder. You're blaming and shaming them for having PMDD by making them feel like nothing that they say is really valid because they have the propensity to go into PMDD. So you're trying to make a valid point because you're triggered in a relationship because of something that your partner has said and done. But instead of your partner addressing it and having a conversation about it, they're in a place of like, are you sure you're not in PMDD? Or maybe this is just the intrusive thoughts. And maybe you're just lying to yourself. Like maybe I'm not really the problem. Maybe you're just in PMDD and you're the problem. And so this is the next way, number 6, making negative comparisons. This is the way that you're shaming your partner for having PMDD, is you're comparing your partner with other individuals who do not have PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. You're saying things like other women don't act like this before they have their period. Why do I have to deal with you every single month where you're talking crazy to me, you're dismissing me, you're not giving me the love that I want, you're not meeting my needs. Why can't you handle it better like so and so? So you're actually picking a person and you're comparing that person with your partner. You're saying, oh, like we had Susan over the other night for dinner. How come you can't act like Susan? Susan has a period. Why can't you act like her? Why do I have to deal with your BS every single month that you're in PMDD? And then your partner starts to get into that victim mentality where they're feeling like, oh, they're doing you a favor. They're doing you an actual favor by being with you, right? So the next thing is you're labeling the behavior that happens in PMDD as crazy or irrational. You're dismissing the legitimate concerns or emotions as irrational or hormonal. You're saying, oh, you always do this. Like you could say to them, babe, I really have an issue with this. And you're addressing your trigger. And then your partner is saying, oh, you're just about to be on your period. Oh, you're just hormonal. And so you're not even considering validating your partner's like feelings or emotions because you know that they're in PMDD. It's almost like when your partner knows that you're in PMDD, they're automatically dismissing your feelings. They're automatically dismissing the legitimate concerns that you may have with things that they are doing within the relationship. And so the next way that blaming and shaming can show up in your relationship is your partner is publicly highlighting PMDD. They're letting everyone know that you're in PMDD. They're making jokes or comments about you being in PMDD and being like, you're going to a dinner party or you're going to the movies or you're going somewhere on couples or date night or a family event. And instead of your partner being aware of how hard that is for you because you're in this place of wanting to isolate socially, they're going into the situation where they're saying, watch out, she's in her PMDD phase. Your partner is literally exploiting you for being in PMDD, mocking you, and actually letting other people know that this is like a thing. Whereas you may be in a place with your PMDD journey where you're not really ready to discuss PMDD. You're not ready to talk about what that looks like, where your partner is shaming you for having PMDD, for being in PMDD by publicly announcing it to everyone else. And then the next way that your partner can shame you is they're criticizing the physical symptoms that happen within PMDD and making hurtful comments and remarks about the physical changes that you have in PMDD. And one of the biggest things that really impact PMDD relationships is the fatigue. They're talking about how tired you are, and they're saying, make little comments like, oh, she's going to have to go to bed soon. Like, oh, don't have too much fun. Like, she's not going to be able to last. Like, they are aware that this is a PMDD symptom, but they're making you feel shameful about it because you know that even if you wanted to stay up when you're in PMDD, that you don't have the capability to do so, and because you know that you need more sleep in PMDD. But your partner is making fun of you because of that. And they may be talking about the bloating that you have when PMDD, like, oh, you probably shouldn't wear that. You probably shouldn't wear that because you're in PMDD and you know that you're bloated. Or making comments like, oh, we want to go to this event, and saying, oh yeah, you're so lazy during this time. You always look terrible right before your period. Like making you feel even more secure than you already feel, because they're in that space of shaming you for having a disorder that you didn't even ask for. And so what I want to let you know is that your partner could be doing this consciously or subconsciously. And I can tell you, if they do it consciously, where they know what it is that they're doing it because they're not getting their needs met. That's where that bitterness and resentment comes from. And they feel the need to exploit you for being in PMDD. And so the last reason, number 10, is minimizing the impact of PMDD on the relationship. Telling your partner that their PMDD symptoms are insignificant, like they don't really matter. Like you're making too big of a deal about this. Like you're making it seem like you can't love me the way I deserve to be loved because you're in PMDD. Like what kind of partner doesn't know how to show affection? What kind of partner doesn't know how to love on their partner? And I've been told this so many times where I've gotten in a place in PMDD where I've wanted to isolate, and I've had partners make me feel bad about that. And really saying like, oh my gosh, why can't you just love me? Like, if you really loved me the way that you say that you love me, then this shouldn't be an issue. Or our relationship shouldn't be this hard just because of your period, just because of your PMDD. Like, if you really love me the way that you say that you love me, then why can't you just show that? Like, what's wrong with you? Making you feel like there's literally something wrong with you because you have PMDD, and there may be certain aspects of your personality that are harder for you to show when you're in PMDD. Like for me, when I get into that place where I have an avoidant attachment style and I need to spend more time alone, it's not that I don't love my partner. It's not that I don't care about them. I just need more time to spend with myself. But they'll say to me, like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't you just show affection, show attention? Why is that so, overbearing for you? So what I want to let you know is shaming your partner can severely damage their self-esteem and their mental health. What you're asking for is your partner to be more open, more loving, more giving of their attention, affection, and validation. But what this can lead to is deepening those feelings of isolation, of guilt, of hopelessness. And it can also lead to your symptoms being worse. I know there's been so many times where my symptoms have been worse because my partner has been shaming me throughout the course of my PMDD. And I really felt like I just need to do better. I need to be good enough for my partner. I really felt like I just need to do better and be better for my partner. And then maybe I wouldn't be suffering this much. So I'm going to give you the tools about what you can do if you're in that situation where, your partner is really blaming you and shaming you for having PMDD, where you're feeling bad about it, but there's also nothing that you can do about it. Like you're feeling like, I wish I could do something to really, help me not trigger my partner so much, help me to meet their needs. But that I also am in a place where I feel like I'm giving everything that I have to give. So the first tool that I want to tell you is open communication about your sufferings. Open communication. So what that means is your partner should have open, empathetic conversations about the impact of PMDD on your relationship. So one of the really core qualities of a good PMDD partner, of a supportive PMDD partner, is empathy. Empathy is that way of like, I'm not saying that I know what it is that you're going through. I'm not saying that I can feel the level of suffering that you're going through, but I'm saying that I have empathy, where I am literally able to adjust my mindset to your suffering in a way that is empathizing with you, that is saying, I feel like what you're going through sucks. I don't feel it myself, but I empathize with you feeling like that. I'm pretty sure that if I lived in that realm of suffering, that I would, be reacting a certain way as well. So your partner is able to take themselves out of their situation, out of their wants and desires and needs, and really saying to you, I'm sorry that you're suffering. And I'm sorry that there's not really anything that you can do about it in the moment outside of just thinking positively, but I feel you. And when your partner gets into that realm of having empathy, they're really allowing you to be in that place of saying, you know what? I know that you're suffering, and I know that you're not doing it on purpose. I think one of the most damaging things is when a partner feels like because they're in PMDD, you think that they're doing it on purpose. You think that they're not giving you the things that you need in a relationship on purpose. You think that they're not meeting your needs on purpose. You think that they're intentionally trying to cause you to suffer when that's really not the thing. They're not intentionally trying to cause you to suffer because they're in PMDD. They're in that place where they're incapable of providing you with the things that you need because they're in that state. And it's not a malicious thing. Your partner who has PMDD is not the enemy. Your partner who doesn't have PMDD is not the enemy. But sometimes you can get into that place of saying, I'm suffering because of what you're going through or what you're bringing into this relationship. And that's why I feel like it's malicious. And so when you start reacting to your partner when you're triggered in a way where you're blaming and shaming them, it's because you really feel like they're doing it on purpose. And I remember being in that place so often where it's like, my partner knows that this is causing me to suffer and they're doing it on purpose. I'm triggered because my partner is snoring and I have, extreme insomnia when I'm in PMDD and I'm feeling like they're making me suffer. They're causing me to have less sleep on purpose. And so when you get into that place of feeling like your partner's the enemy, that's when we're breaking down that communication. I'm not going to be open and vulnerable with you about the suffering that I'm having in PMDD if I feel like you're doing it on purpose. So the next thing that you can do when you feel like your partner is really shaming you for having PMDD, shaming you for being, reactive to the emotions, to the highs and lows of the hormonal fluctuations that you're experiencing PMDD, is educating yourself. So both partners, the partner who has PMDD and the partners that don't have PMDD, should be educating themselves on what they can do to minimize the suffering within the relationship, point blank, period. This is why every single podcast that I have on the In Love with PMDD podcast is filled with tools. I don't just want to tell you how you suffer. I want to give you the tools that you can use to shift that in your relationship. And so the last way that you can really address the shaming in your PMDD relationship is having therapy. So a lot of my counseling sessions involves a lot of partners opening up about what they're really struggling with in the relationship in a safe place. So many times we don't feel like we can open up about what we're really going through because we feel like our partner is going to blame us and shame us even more. If I tell my partner what it is that I'm going through, I'm going to be in this place of, feeling like they're going to use it against me. I remember thinking about all of sometimes when you get into PMDD, your attraction level towards your partner can change. The way you see them, the way you feel about them can change. And that was one of the biggest issues that I was having, but I didn't really want to tell my partner that it was PMDD. What happened? They started to think that it was them. They started to think like they were the problem. And I really had to have an open communication during a counseling session and say to them, hey, I'm not saying that you're the problem, but this is genuinely how I'm feeling. And so when you're in those counseling sessions, you're in a safe place to where it's not going to escalate into verbal and physical abuse. I've had so many counseling sessions where it's been on the cusp, where it's about to go there. They're about to do the normal cyclical abuse that happens in PMDD relationships. I know what happens. I have literally counseled hundreds of PMDD partners, PMDD couples. I know what happens when you get into those heated arguments. So when you're feeling like I'm even going to shame you when you come to a private counseling session and you're not wanting to divulge all of the things that have happened in the relationship, it's a no judgment zone because I've seen and heard it all. But what I want you to do, I would rather you come to me and uncover the trauma that you're having in the relationship than for you to hold it in and to continuously trigger your partner. Continuously get into that place of where you're blaming and shaming them and doing more damage. That's what causes a lot of the damage, is when your partner trusts you with certain information, like they told you what it is that they were going through, they told you why it is that they were going through it, and you shame them for it. And you get to that place where you're saying, oh, you're doing this. Oh, it's just because of PMDD. Everything's about PMDD. And it's not. A lot of the things that you're going through in PMDD is a magnification about the actual issues that you have with your partner. You have an issue with your partner, and when you're in your follicular phase, when you're in your good days, you're able to overshadow it. You're able to look past it and say, no big deal. But PMDD, as I've always said, it rips the blanket off of every problem that you have within your relationship, off of every problem that you have with your partner. It doesn't allow you to get cozy with ignoring the issues that you have. And so a lot of times you're saying that, oh, PMDD is the reason why I'm suffering. No, ignoring your issues, ignoring the trauma, ignoring the triggers that you have with your partner is the reason why you're suffering. PMDD cannot use anything that you expose. If you've healed from an issue that you have with your PMDD partner, it cannot use it against you. It cannot use it against you. And so that's what I want you to recognize. When you keep hiding things, when you keep putting things under wraps, when you keep denying things, then that's when PMDD can use it, because it can shame you for things that you're doing in PMDD. So I want you to just get that freedom of exposing what is really causing you to suffer the most in PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. For all of my new followers, my new listeners, what is it that's causing you to suffer? What are the real triggers that your partner is doing? Expose them. Bring them to light, because PMDD cannot use what you reveal, and you cannot heal what you don't reveal. But as long as you keep it hidden, as long as you pretend like it's not really bothering you when it really is, then PMDD can use it, because it can shame you for it and make you feel like it's something that you have to hide. I'm in a place in my journey where I don't feel like I have to hide any of my suffering. And it took me a long time to get there. It took me a long time to get there because I was previously in a place where I felt like I had to be okay in order to be valuable to my partner. I had to pretend like everything was okay in order to be valuable to my partner, when in reality, I don't have to do that. I can be a hot mess express and still be a completely valuable person while having PMDD. My value is not in denying that I have PMDD. And that is one of the mantras that I use with my private clients that I'm giving to you right now. Your value, say it to yourself, my value is not tied to me having PMDD. Whether I'm in PMDD, whether I'm in my luteal phase, follicular phase, ovulation phase, menstruation phase, my value remains the same. I am just as valuable in my luteal phase when I'm in PMDD as I am when I'm in my follicular phase and I'm in my quote unquote good days. Like, maybe not even just use the mindset of, oh, my follicular days are my only good days. I've been in PMDD so many times where I've had amazing days, but I've almost leaned on that characteristic of, oh, no, I'm in PMDD, so I can't have a good day. How many of you have said that? I'm in PMDD, so I can't have a good day. Yes, you can. It is a matter of taking every single day. And one of the biggest things that I would say for your every single cycle of PMDD, I have a word, I have a mantra, I have a focus. What am I trying to bring into my life during this time? And I shift my focus from the negative of PMDD into that focus. And right now, ever since the breakup with my PMDD, my ex-PMDD partner, which happened, like 9 months ago, my vision has been clarity, where I've been in that place of, I really just need clarity for what is going on in my life. Like, I'm all over the place in a realm of my future. My future was so solid when I was with my ex. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I knew exactly where I was going to go. And then immediately I broke up with my ex PMDD partner, and I didn't know what my life was going to look like. Everything that I was so sure about before became a question to me. So now I'm in that realm of saying, I just want clarity. I'm asking that to be poured into me. I'm asking for discernment. I'm asking to know the hearts and intentions of other people so that I don't make the wrong decision by bringing the wrong people into my life for the next phase of my life. So I think there's the scripture in the Bible, Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision and make it clear. And I've really been honing in on that during my morning routine, where I'm like, I need to write the vision and make it clear. Without a vision, you're all over the place. You're going all over the place, especially in your relationship. If you don't have a vision for your PMDD relationship, then you're going all over the place. You don't even have anything to hold on to. There's been so many times where it's like, why am I in this relationship? Why am I holding on to this? And a lot of times I've had to go back to that vision. But when you don't have a vision, it's easy for you to break up with your partner and let it go because you're not invested. You're not invested on maintaining that relationship because it's not tied to anything bigger. A vision is tied to something bigger. So when you get into those places of wanting to break up with your partner, you're in that place of saying, I'm not going to break up because I'm holding on to this vision. I'm not going to break up because I'm holding on for not where I am right now, but where it is that I'm going. Where is it that you are going in your PMDD relationship? What is it that you want to accomplish? What are the goals that you have? A lot of you are coasting in your relationship. And this is why it's so easy to break up because you're just like, oh, I don't know whether I'm in the relationship or not. It's not going to make an impact on my life. When you're completely invested on something, and I was just watching the Olympics today. I was watching the Olympics, the 2024 Olympics. So whenever you listen to this podcast, go back there. And I was watching relay races. I used to run track and field in high school and college. And that 4x1, where you're holding on to that baton and you need your other teammate in order to win the race. That's the kind of mindset that you need to have in your PMDD relationship. Whereas I'm trying to make it across a specific finish line, but I need you in order to do it. So many times we're in PMDD, we're in a very individualistic mindset. We're in a mindset of me, what I can accomplish, what I can do to ease my suffering. But when you're in a relay race like the Olympics, like the 4x1, you need your partner. And a lot of times when you're in PMDD, you're feeling like I can do this on my own. I can do it on my own. No, you can't. When you are committing to being in a relay race with your partner, you're committing to saying, oh my goodness, I am going to take what you have to pour into me. And that's how I'm going to make it to the finish line. That's how I'm going to make it to the finish line, by taking what it is that you're giving to me. I'm holding the baton when you pass it to me, and I'm going towards my goal. I'm going towards my goal. And so you get into this moment where you're feeling like, you know what? Thank you, Jana. You're going to this moment of feeling like I'm making it towards my goal because of what my partner is bringing into the relationship. And a lot of times you're feeling like I don't have enough to give to my partner. Think of you and your partner being in that relay race where when you're depleted, your partner is pouring into you. And when you need someone to pour into you, you have your partner. So this is where you're losing the mindset of the value that your partner brings when you have PMDD. When you have PMDD and you're in that place of feeling depleted, your partner can pour into you. And when your partner is dealing with triggers and all of these things, they're in that mindset of saying, you know what, I got you. I got you. And that's why I say this on the end of every single podcast, you got this. You need someone to tell you that you got this. So many times when you're in PMDD, you're in that individualistic mindset where it's like, I got to do everything by myself. I got to do everything. No, we are built for community. We are built for relationship. And just because you have PMDD doesn't mean that you need to be single and isolate yourself against getting that support. You almost need a partner even more. You need a community even more, because of what it is that you're going through. There is no way that you should be going through all of these symptoms of PMDD by yourself. There's no way. PMDD has so many symptoms. It's not just anxiety. It's not just depression. It's not just intrusive thoughts. It's not just feeling like you want to break up. It's not just suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts. This is how serious it is. It is the compilation of all of these symptoms, and you're expected to do it alone. You're expected to do it by yourself. You're expected to do it without the tools. You're expected to automatically wake up the next day and have tools for PMDD. It took me 6 years of studying PMDD while having PMDD to develop these tools, to get my doctorate, to be able to pour into you and to the level that I am. Not to mention enduring PMDD for over 18 years, having relationship after relationship, breakup after breakup, blaming them. They're the problem, without really recognizing it's me. It's me. Like I always reference the Taylor Swift song, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. And not I'm the problem in a way of shaming myself, but until you recognize that you are the problem, then you can never become the solution. Until you recognize that you are the problem, you are never going to become the solution. If you're consistently telling your partner, you're the problem, you're the reason why I have PMDD, you're the reason why I'm triggered, then they're going to be the only ones that are going to be able to bring you any relief in PMDD. It is only when you point that finger that you're pointing at your partner and you point it at yourself and you're saying to yourself, what am I bringing into this relationship that is causing me to suffer even more? What are the characteristics? What are the things that I'm doing that's causing my partner to suffer? And then working on those things. I used to be a person that blamed a lot. When I was in my relationship, I used to be that person that had PMDD where I was blaming my partner for a lot of things. And I had to come to terms with, wait a minute, my partner is reacting this way because I am triggering them by the way that I'm showing up in the relationship. And that was a very humbling thing. Thank you, Jana. That was a very humbling thing that I had to do, was really point that finger that I was pointing out at my partner and pointing it back on myself and saying, I'm not meeting my partner's needs and I'm blaming them for being in a place to not be able to take that. Like, you're asking your partner to endure being in a relationship where they're not getting their needs met. I mean, who is signing up for that? And some of you are finding out that you have PMDD after you've already committed to the relationship. So you didn't know what was going on. Your partner didn't know what was going on, meaning they didn't sign up to be in a PMDD relationship, but you're expecting them to automatically adapt to being a PMDD partner, automatically adapt to the hormonal fluctuations of our symptoms without giving them any tools. I remember when I realized that I had PMDD, there were no tools out there. There was no In Love with PMDD podcast that I could go to. And so I was in this place of getting into these relationships and really saying, I was really saying, hold on, I'm having to do this. Perfect. To stay on the live. I was really requiring my partners to already know how to handle me in PMDD when they didn't have the tools. It wasn't that they were not a good PMDD partner. It wasn't that they didn't want to be there for me. They just didn't really know what was going on. So I want you to think back to when you recognized that you had PMDD. Did you know what was really going on with you? Did you know how to manage your symptoms? If the answer is no, give some grace and give some empathy and sympathy to your partner, because they're in that same place. I have so many private clients that are the partners, and they are trying their best to show up for you, but they just don't know how. And a lot of times when we're in PMDD, we don't know specifically how to communicate what it is that we need. We're like, I want you to be a supportive PMDD partner, but you're not even telling them what that looks like. And a lot of times you don't know what that looks like. So be realistic with that. When you're asking them to be more supportive, we have to dig deep and really do the work. And this is what I do with my private clients, is mapping out every single month what it is that you're going to need and giving your partner the opportunity to provide you with that support. It's not that you don't have a supportive PMDD partner. Your partner just doesn't know how to support you. And again, like I always say on these reels that I make, I'm not talking about a narcissist. I'm not talking about a toxic partner. I'm not talking about a manipulator. I'm not talking about someone that is shaming you and making you feel horrible about having PMDD. I'm talking about a good PMDD partner. Like when you go into your follicular phase, when you go into your good days, you're able to look at them and say, oh my goodness, like this is a really good partner. They're a really good person. I really want to be with them. I'm seeing so clearly why I should be with them. Like, this is what I'm talking about. When you're in that realm of having an actual good partner, but they're just not knowing how to utilize the tools, they just don't know what the tools are, then you need to approach them as such and not think that the things that they're doing are malicious, not think that they're trying to cause you to suffer, not think that they're triggering you on purpose. For those of you who have children, your children can trigger you. Are you looking at your children like they're the problem? Your pets can trigger you, right? You can, I know when I walk my dog sometime, if he's pulling at my leash and I'm really irritable and I'm in PMDD, I'm giving my dog the side eye. So like, this is how swiftly then you can turn an outside entity into, being the problem. So I don't want you to continuously shame your partner for having PMDD, but I also don't want you to shame the partner for not treating you the way that you deserve to be treated just because they don't have the tools. Now, if you're providing them with the tools and they're refusing to use them, that's a different thing. But if they're like, hey, I want to help you, but I don't know how to help you. My needs aren't getting met. Here's newsflash. If you're in a relationship and your emotional and physical needs are not being met, you're going to act out. Think of it like a baby that's crying and they're not getting their bottle. They're not getting their binky. You know, my daughter is 14 and I still remember she really wasn't a fussy or a whiny baby. But if you took that binky away from her, that pacifier away from her in a time where she really needed it, she acted out of character. So I want you to think of your partner like that. If you take that affection away, if you take that intimacy away, if you take that sex away, if you take those positive comments away from them, why are you not expecting them to act out of character? Who is going to survive in an environment where you're not providing them with what it is that they need, that their basic relationship needs, which is attention, affection, validation, and respect? I'm going to repeat that. Attention, affection, validation, and respect. So what I do with my private clients is before they start complaining to me about what their partner is doing or not doing, I always ask them this question. Are you providing your PMDD partner with attention, affection, validation, and respect? If you're not providing that to your partner, then no, of course, they're not providing you with the behavior that is supportive when you're in PMDD. You have control over the way that your partner treats you by how you choose to meet their needs. You have the responsibility when you are in a relationship to seek to meet their needs. You being in PMDD, you having PMDD doesn't give you a get out of jail free card where it's like, while I'm suffering, I don't have to meet my partner's needs. And if your partner is the one that has PMDD, you have the responsibility of having that empathy for their suffering when you're in PMDD. This is why open communication and having my private sessions are so impactful, because we're navigating what that looks like. We're talking about what it is that you need instead of you pretending that you don't have any needs when you're in your PMDD relationship. So it is a very strategic thing when you're in PMDD, but the biggest thing is how severely damaging it is for you to be in PMDD and you to be shaming your partner. So right now, my trauma transformational group is still open. It's completely free. It is completely free for the next 2 weeks. And it's an 8-week course, and we're starting week 2 right now. And if that's something where you know that you have past traumatic events, that when you've been in PMDD and you really had to deal with a lot of hard things and you haven't been able to get out of it, you haven't been able to get over it, and you're constantly shaming them and blaming them for what they've said and done to you when you've been in PMDD, then make sure you DM me on Instagram at In Love with PMDD. You can DM me, Dr. Rose _ In Love with PMDD on TikTok, which I'm live on right now. DM me trauma, and I will send you the link to join my free course. This is the only time this year that I'm offering it. I offer it once a year. This is the only time that I'm doing it, but make sure you get into that realm of getting those tools. You really just want to get those tools for your PMDD relationship. So I'll see you next week. We got this. Love you. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.